Tired of that same old breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Same old tasting scrambled eggs, burger, that dinner steak, ribs, or pork chops. Why not add a little bit of spice or just a touch of heat to make the difference? Change that scrambled egg with a little bit of Johnny Fabulous's John Cena Sr.'s $1 Million Jalapeno Hot Sauce. Great on burgers, steaks, chops, and those barbecued ribs.
And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB.
Last week we lost the iconic superstar Billy Graham. Can you share your thoughts on Billy and maybe your relationship with him, sir?
Yeah, well, I knew who Billy was way before I got into pro wrestling. He grew up in Paradise Valley, Arizona, and which was right next to Phoenix. And he used to train at a gym down there called Thorbeck's. And all the muscle heads in town trained there, and I knew 3 or 4 of them because they were at Arizona State. Shot putters, discus throwers, guys that I had competed against, and they told me about Thorbeck's. They told me about superstar Billy Graham, and I've known Billy for a long time. Then I met him right after I started wrestling for Vern Gagne in the AWA in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I live 100 miles north of Minneapolis right now. But I met Billy, and he came in there and came into the AWA, got over like $1 million, yeah, which he did everywhere. Kind of like myself. So anyway, Billy was a good guy. I always liked him. You know, he was a flamboyant character in the wrestling ring, but outside the ring, he was a normal person, you know, just like the rest of us. But he was quite a showman. I really enjoyed his colorful way of doing things. And so about 6 months after he was here in the AWA, you know, I was a rookie, along with Ric Flair and Jumpin' Jimmy Brunzell, Greg Gagne, the Iron Sheik, Khosrow Visseri. We all went through the same training camp with Vern Gagne. But Vern Gagne, he was the heavyweight champion of the AWA. Plus, he was a promoter. I mean, my God, how good, you can't get any better than that. So he came to me one day and asked me, he said, Ken, how would you like to do a weightlifting contest against superstar Billy Graham? I said, yeah, I'd love to. And do you think you can beat him? I started laughing. So what's so funny? I said, he's a bodybuilder. I said, you know, I'm a weightlifter. I was in the Olympic Games. I was the first American to ever lift 500 pounds over my head in both the military press and the clean and jerk. I said, yeah, but I saw Billy do a bicep curl of 250 pounds at the gym. I says, yeah, that's not bad for a bodybuilder. So he thought I was putting Billy down, and I wasn't. I said, well, ask Billy. Ask Billy if I can beat him in a weightlifting contest. And he said, well, yeah, I will. So he asked Billy, I don't know, a day or two later, and Billy started laughing. He says, You think I can beat Ken Patera in a weightlifting contest? Are you nuts?
Mm.
And so anyway, we got together and we did a weightlifting contest in the middle of the ring in all the big arenas and even some medium-sized arenas in the AWA. Then we did the arm wrestling thing in all the big arenas. Hell, we must have had 20 to 30 sellouts all the way from Green Bay, Wisconsin to Denver, Colorado, and Phoenix and San Francisco, Winnipeg, Canada, all over the place. Yeah. So that was a hell of a program that we had there. Yeah.
Ken, how do you feel you would have done the 1980 or so Ken Patera with Wizard compared to Billy Graham's reign as a flashy villain? If they had given you the belt, which, by the way, I think they should have in those days,
Yeah.
1980 or so with the Wizard, how do you think you would have fared and compared to Graham's run if they had given you the belt as a villain back in like 1980 or so? How do you think you would have done?
Well, I'd sell out all the buildings in the territory.
I believe
I,
you would have.
I wrestled Bruno over 30 times between Madison Square Garden, Boston Garden, Igloo over in Pittsburgh, down in Philadelphia at the Spectrum, and we sold them all out. Baltimore, Washington, D.C., sold them all out. And so nothing would have been different. Hell, when I had the Intercontinental belt back in '81, I beat Pat Patterson in Madison Square Garden for that. And we went around the horn, sold out everywhere.
Yep.
I went around the horn with Bobby Backlund twice, sold out everywhere. So, I mean, I was selling out without the belt. And Billy was doing good. How long did they leave that belt on, Billy? Less than a year.
About 10 months.
About 8 to 10 months. I think it was 8 months, but
yeah.
it doesn't. Let me ask you this: that you brought that up, Ken. A lot of people always felt that, and I think Billy did too, that he was so over they should have changed the plan and turned him face instead of giving the belt to Backlund, since that's what Vince McMahon made his promise to. Do you think a face Billy Graham would have been more successful than a Bob Backlund?
Oh, yeah, he would have been as big as Bruno. I'm going to tell you guys a story. They were contemplating doing that, so they had me wrestle Billy up in Portland, Maine, of all places. We sold the place out, turned away about 2,000 people in Portland, Maine. And they wanted a promotion. They wanted to find out who was over as a heel, because we were both heels. Well, 2 minutes into the match, I was a heel. Superstar Billy Graham was a cold stone baby face. And so it was, so they, old man McGee thought that was interesting. I want to say, when was that? That had to be in the 70s, 78, 79, something like that. Billy didn't have, I don't think Billy had the belt anymore. I think Backlund had the belt.
Right. You are correct.
Do you remember when Backlund beat Billy for the belt?
February 20th, 1978. I do believe.
It was right after that then.
Yep.
Yeah, because they were trying to figure out if they had made a mistake or not.
Mm-hmm.
So Senior was second guessing himself, Kenny?
Huh?
Was Senior second guessing himself?
I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Because then he was thinking about putting the belt on me. prior to Billy, Bruno Sammartino went to the old man and says, I want to drop the belt and I want to drop it to Ken Patera.
Ooh.
Well, then the old man, here's an interesting bit of history. The old man tells Bruno, well, I've already promised a superstar, Billy Graham. He's down working for Eddie Graham in Florida. And he couldn't do any more with Billy, so he thought that if Billy came up to New York, they could put the belt on him. And so Bruno was still stuck on Ken Patera. He wanted to put the belt on me. And, at that time, it didn't matter one way or another to me. I was so over, I was selling out everywhere without the belt. And I was making the same money as those guys, And one thing leads to another, there's all the bullshit. So Billy got the belt, and then he drops it to Backlund. And the reason they dropped it to Backlund, the old man felt that he couldn't trust Billy with the belt. Because several years prior to that, Ivan Koloff had held him up for money. And Superstar held him up for money too, prior to having the belt. And now, when Billy got the belt, I don't know if he held him up for money or what transpired there, but he had already promised Bobby Backlund that he was going to put the belt on him after Superstar had his run. So where in the fuck does that leave Ken Patera? I said, and so the old man came to me and he explained to me, he says, Ken, you are so over, you don't need a belt to sell out. These other guys, they needed a little help. And I said, well, and I knew what the gates were, everybody knew what the gates were, so there wasn't any bullshit like that. So that's how it went down. And then I left. When the hell did I leave? I left in 78, end of 78, something like that. I just got fed up with all the fucking games. And I went back to Mid-Atlantic territory, Charlotte. And my family, I just bought a big house down there a couple of years prior to that. And so I wanted to go back there and wrestle and be with my family. So that's how I wound up leaving there. And then, so I was there for about a year and a half. And then come New Year's Day, 1980, I went back to the WWF. And